Good morning,
Good afternoon.
good evening, wherever you are on this.
Amazing planet of
I
ours.
was waiting to see to listen to what descriptor you would have today.
Well, it is amazing. It's just really amazing. We live here in New Jersey, and where we are, there are leaves on the trees because it's summertime here now. But there are places on the planet that are covered in ice and different time
And
zones
water, and
water
it's
and everything. It's an
exquisite.
amazing place.
I'm Ariel.
I'm Shya.
Welcome to being here.
Yes.
Today's episode is on the theme of heritage. Many of us have fought where we come from, but when you embrace who you are, it includes your heritage.
Well, here's the thing. Most of us have determined who we are either in conjunction with or opposition to our families, our parents. As I say that, I picture the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yes.
Where there's so many cultural standards and norms that when you fit into a new culture, you try to disavow or get rid of. And most of us have determined who we are in opposition to who our parents were, from our child's point of view, of course. And, you weren't born when you got here. You were in existence in your parents before you arrived, and in their parents before they arrived, going all the way back in time to the beginning of life on this planet. So we've been around for a very long time, really. And most of us reject where we came from as though the new, better version is better. But I tend to disagree with that idea. I think that unless you're willing to embrace where you come from, you cannot discover who you are. That's just my idea.
Were you listening to it? I mean, listening pulls you into the moment, and then you can look and see what's true for you. Not in opposition to what Shya just said, not in agreement to what he just said, but listening to hear the information without judging it or filtering it as it comes in. Simply hearing what he has to say.
I don't know that y'all can do that. See, we've been programmed to agree and disagree and see how it fits with what we already know, which keeps things pretty much stagnant in our lives. Pretty much we live our days over and over again, a little bit like Groundhog Day, the movie. We repeat similar themes over and over, if you haven't noticed, because we group everything that's happening in reference to what was happening in the past that was similar. And so finding something new, listening newly, discovering how to be yourself in the current moment of your life is a challenge for most people.
I love the word for moment in German.
Augenblick.
The blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, this moment is new. I don't really have anything else to say about heritage at this moment. I'd really prefer to speak with our first guest.
So would I.
All right. Corinne, welcome to being here. Tell people where you're zooming in from.
Hi, this is Corinne, and I'm zooming in from Glarus, Switzerland.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for slowing down in the pronunciation of Glarus, because it's not a word that most people in America know. And
it's a different pronunciation than the way we often say things here. So it's nice. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. It's my pleasure to be here as well, because heritage, as you said before, you said something about to hear something new or to get new things, you really need to listen. And I learned that through your seminars and through the years we know each other. And I hear all the time again, listening. And so this is how I met my parents some years ago, again, like as new. I saw them as humans, not only as my parents, which was like they got like a stamp from me. Like they were not human beings. They didn't have a life by themselves. They were like my parents, and they were responsible for me. So
You owned them,
You
huh?
and only you.
yes, even though I have 5 siblings, um, but they were mine. And through your seminars, I realized that they're humans. They're like have their own lives without me and including me. And that's how I really met them. I met them as a human beings.
Well, let
And
me
that,
ask you something.
sorry,
Let me ask you something.
yeah.
What do you do for a living?
I manage a bakery, a family business.
And did it start before you were born?
Yes, it started 7 generations before. We are the 7th.
That is amazing.
Is it true that you only manage it, or at this point are you a co-owner or a partial owner, or you only a manager at the moment?
No, I co-own it as well. And it is a pleasure. It is a pleasure since my first time in Costa Rica with you on a seminar, because there I realized that I really want to do it. It's not something I have to do or I do it out of obligations. And that's really wonderful. Also with my parents, I had an interview because we're opening a new store in August. And it makes me so proud and rich to say we are the 7th generation. So we include all our 6th generation before us with like recipes and names and things, but also we take some new things in. But it's like when I said it today, it was like, my God, it's like 150 years or something. And through you, I really saw it. But I have a question for today.
Okay, we're ready.
Please.
I met my parents as human beings, but right now I'm a bit in like, I'm not sure if my siblings or some of them are human beings. I keep them as siblings and I'm fighting with them. And I would love to have your insights.
Well, you said it all. You are fighting with them. There's nothing
Yes.
to do about the way they are. The only control you have over your life is you. And for the most part, people don't have control over that either. They're at the effect of the circumstances and the automaticity of their reactions to how life shows up. But you have an option, Corinne. You know, you can notice your propensity or wanting to fight with them.
Propensity means you're wanting your natural inclination to fight.
But you don't have to engage in that fight. You don't have to activate that predisposition. You know, you can not fight. If you stop fighting, the fight is over.
Yeah.
There was something that you said. Oh, you want to do it first?
See, you have an idea of how they should be for you to be satisfied, happy.
Yes.
Yes. And that's not fair because they're not responsible for how you feel. You are. You blame them, but that's not their fault. They're just doing their life. Here, can you be different than you are right now?
No,
Well, how could they?
they can't.
Well, why are you
Mm.
indulging?
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
It was laid out in your story about your parents. You talked about originally they weren't human beings to you. You had a stamp that said parents, and you held them as the stamp parents. And then you talked a little longer and you're saying my parents, and it was related to me. But I still think somewhere you think the disconnect between the two of you and your parents was that you held them as parents as opposed to my parents. So you haven't caught that when you own them as a my thing, you set up dis-ease, disease, discomfort, discontent. So it's worked its way out with your parents, partially because you've become adult enough in your responsibilities and how you go about your life that you can empathize with them. You see the choices they made. You have compassion for everything that was to be them. However, you haven't shifted that focus yet to your siblings. They're still my siblings.
Yes.
If my sister Kathy has a beautiful backyard, you do not compare your gardening skills to her because she's not your sister. If she makes more money than you or less money than you, it means nothing because she's not your sibling. You haven't caught that it runs through a filter of ownership.
Yes.
So then you never really see them. It's not, gee, Harry does this and June does that.
You
and
see them, but you see them through the eyes that are looking to find fault with them, not the eyes that are looking to discover who are these people? Oh, that's so great the way they relate.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
That's
You actually are looking to find fault.
yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Now, if you can see that, then you can see that that is a mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't really you. It's just the way you've related to them and they've related to you.
And by the way, it's part of your heritage. We
That's
all
right.
learned to be right and to fight. You know, one of the things that we did in the last weekend seminar, somewhere during the seminar, we read the little piece from our first book, Working on Yourself Doesn't Work. It's an excerpt from Sengsten Sing Tsin Ming. And it talks about how the great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. Make the slightest distinction, however, in heaven and earth
Are set infinitely apart.
And one of the things that happens is we've been trained to be for and against. And of course, it makes sense. You want to be for the good things and against the bad things.
Well, I'd be willing to bet if we looked at your siblings, the ones you get along with have embraced your family heritage, and the ones you don't get along with have rejected your family heritage. How close is that to reality?
That's spot on.
Yes.
How do you see that?
How do I see that? I don't know how I see that.
But
But it's irrelevant how I see that.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing creativity and intuition at the end of July. It doesn't matter how you see it. It only matters if you see it.
you see it.
See, and you've chosen sides.
Mm-hmm.
You manage the family business.
But
Therefore, you have chosen to support the family heritage. And those that don't want to work in the family business have rejected that and think they should be more different or better somehow. Well, they're not acceptable to you, and you gather evidence to prove them wrong.
Yes.
So
But
if you want to find peace, it's all in you.
Yes.
Here you're rejecting you. Because if you take what you said from maybe 5 minutes ago, 7 minutes ago, you said, I discovered in the first Costa Rica longer seminar you did with us, which I believe was at Tres Banderas. It was many different locations ago. You discovered that you could embrace your family heritage and you could work at the bakery and then ultimately manage and ultimately co-own the bakery, not as a burden. But before then, you felt it was something that was hung around your neck like a chain that was weighing you down.
But at that point in time, everything was a chain hung around your neck, weighing you down.
But there's two things about it. One is, what if your siblings who do not, quote, embrace the family business really have a life elsewhere? That really their life, I mean, can you imagine trying to make me, force me into a business that was all about math?
No.
It's just not, it's not my natural thing. Yet taking my sister, who was a physician, and asking her to lead intuition seminars would be the height of painful. Mm-hmm. We all have our natural inclinations. The thing is that you get irritated that they are disrespectful to what you hold as important, which may include your parents, by the way.
Well, there's another thing too, which came and left.
Well, while he's retrieving it, I'm really clear that if they're like, I hate mom, or dad is a jerk, or this business, or you're unfair, you stop listening.
And now
yes.
The thing is this, when we first met you, you shared their point of view.
Yes.
See,
yes.
So that's why I said you're rejecting you. You reject the earlier version of you. That was your reality. That was not a bad thing or a good thing.
Your heritage back then was an obligation and a burden to you. That the idea of you are taking on, you hear our cat in the background?
Yes.
She's crying over your family obligation.
That's right. So, yeah.
It got you blushing. I don't know why, but it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
They're not different than you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You just grew up and their infancy.
Yeah. I just love what you see, and also that I feel like I get softer and can get some compassion. Like it's not, that's.
Well, you are compassion and compassionate, and you don't have to get it. It's in you, lives in you.
And when you're taking a stance that's right, it's like closing the door to this river of compassion that runs through you all the time, but you can't access it at that time. It's like in our town, we have an old mill that has a water wheel, and sometimes they put something in it to keep the wheel from turning. The water's still running, but the wheel is stuck. This is a good for a person who's done breads and you undo you take the stick out and it actually gets the water wheel moving again.
Yes. That's what you just did with me. You got the stick out. Feels nice. Thank you so much.
You won't ask you where you had it.
See, now here's the thing. Yeah. We didn't do anything.
Mm.
You're seeing the way you've been being allows you, if you don't judge yourself, to move on newly, to step into a new moment of your life.
Well, really, those three principles of transformation are here again. You know, life shows up as it does. So one of your siblings says or does something, and then
If you resist it,
you're-
it persists and runs your life, dominates your life.
you go home, you think about it, you talk to your husband about it, you gather evidence for it, and yes, you mount your own propaganda campaign against that sibling. Your sibling is the way they are. That's second principle. Third principle, which is happening right now, anything you see without judging.
So if you see something and you don't judge yourself for what you see, it no longer has any power over you. It's just over in that instant. No working on yourself.
It was very interesting for me when I went in April, and one of my sisters who lives in Oregon near my father was going to visit my dad, who's in hospice. She invited me to stay with her in her home. I don't normally do that either because Shya and I are together, or if my other sister comes down, we share a hotel room. So it's the first time I've been in her home, and I was really pleasantly surprised at how easy it was. And
as long as you didn't disagree with how she
lived her life.
Right.
Her lifestyle is very different than mine. Her home is very different than mine. I could either appreciate her or talk to myself about what she was doing or not doing. And what was pretty interesting is, I don't know about you, Corinne, but sometimes in the past, when I was talking to you about how you've stopped listening to your siblings at the point where you're upset, when I was like that with her, I would then talk to myself about not being the way I was being, which is, you know, she's got her life, you have to let her, you know, I would negotiate with myself. What was lovely was no negotiation was needed. I simply was with her, and it was exquisite. And we send texts back and forth, and she's a good friend of mine as opposed to my sister.
And now that sister, at the time of Ariel's mother's passing, was so upset that she threw wine in my face and
hit him
and punched me
in the face. I mean, like, she really, it was just, another family member said to Shya a couple of years ago, "You forgave her?" And Shya, we had forgotten there was something to forgive. Forgive is give up the right or desire to punish. But in there, Shya saw that with the passing of my mom was such a disruptive, painful event, particularly for my sister. He missed a cue that set her in the direction
so
that resulted
I saw
in that.
my responsibility in her getting upset with me. I saw what I did or didn't do that pushed her in that direction.
And then it's like, if there's it's not, did you forgive her? It's, well, if anything, it's I forgave me for pushing her there. And what's interesting is she and Shya, it's as if that never happened, because when it's gone, it's gone. So that, you know, one last thing about this, Corinne, I have a feeling that you don't recognize that the list you have against your sibling comes up only when you're upset. When you're not upset, all of that is like gone, or you might have look at their hair, they look nice today. The list is resurrected when you're upset. So it's a clue.
It's an
that you're
indicator,
off-center.
it's really like a barometer that tells you the pressure of the air in your world.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes absolutely sense too. Yes.
Mm.
Oh,
Thank you for asking such a specific, intimate question with the intention of hearing and
Our response.
response. It really, I'm absolutely certain that listeners have all benefited from it, but aside from them, so did we.
mm. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Mwah.
Thank you.
Mm.
Mhm.
Okay, here we go. It's time for our listener feedback spotlight, where we hear from one of our listeners about how transformation has impacted her life or his life.
If you want to learn more about our seminars, any of the upcoming virtual courses, visit transformationmadeeasy.com.
That is transformation made easy, easy.com.
I love it.
Thank you.
This is Lenore in Montclair, New Jersey. And one thing that I love about transformation is I have learned, well, not learned, but seen how wonderful it is to be touched by people. People's stories, being able to listen to other people, I feel connected. That's one of the joys of transformations. I really feel connected.
Do you want to have well-being with consistency? Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Ariel and Shya's lively interactive Living Made Easy virtual seminars. Join any of their 2-hour online events or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
We have Living Made Easy 2-hour seminars coming up this Saturday and the following Monday. Just a shout out to all fathers, because Sunday, at least in the United States, we honor fathers and Father's Day. So shout out to you, Shya, as well.
Thank you.
And why not around the world? We can shout out to all of them, even if different countries aren't celebrating. We know it already happened in Germany and in Switzerland, for instance. Upcoming weekend seminar.
Creativity and intuition, July 30th and 31st.
What an amazing skill set.
Your
to
intuition
know
is.
things. It was interesting. We were speaking to a client the other day who had been on an online dating app and conversing with a guy for some time, and they were getting together. And then she just had this intuitive hit. Hey, he was just in a conference in Las Vegas with the whole company and lots of people and lots of celebrating and all unmasked. Maybe we should put it off. And she texted him because she really wanted to see him. And this gentleman who hung out primarily with his boss said, my boss
Just came down with
COVID today. I'm still negative, but you're probably right. It's a good idea. Her agenda and her intuition, and she was willing to listen. Intuition is an amazing thing. And also it does inform our creativity. I'm excited we're doing it.
We have reasonable minds, and they invalidate our intuitive nature because we think we need reasons to see something rather than we just have a hit that this is good or this is not good for me.
So if you'd like to join us for that weekend seminar, you are invited. I have to say, or I get to say, that the Zoom seminars, both the 2-hour ones and the weekend seminars we've been doing lately, have been more and more sweet and potent. And I'm so, so happy we do them. We are doing an in-person seminar in October in New Jersey at Camp Tecumseh. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, pretty close to where we live.
We live in the middle of nowhere.
It is a Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday seminar, October 21, 22, and 23. We wanted to announce it in this time frame to make sure that people have the time to set their airline schedules should they need it, so that they can make their plans. You can find out about all of our upcoming seminars, including the one that we're doing in September, on our website, transformationmadeeasy.com. Let's call our next guest.
Yes, please.
All right, Sandy.
Hey there.
Hi, this is Sandy in Munich in Germany.
Hey, I realized there was one other shout out I didn't do, Sandy. This is a shout out to Corinne, who we just spoke to. This was her subject that she suggested. We put out the word to our community saying, hey, what would you like us to talk about on being here? So it was really a treat to be able to have her on here as well. So shout out to you, Corinne. Okay. Hi, Sandy.
Hi. It was lovely just listening to your conversation with Corinne. And originally when Heritage came up, I was like, I have to tell you guys or talk to you about how amazing my relationship to my parents has become, which it has. But a question or a theme came more to the foreground because you spoke about siblings and owning them. And I realized listening to you guys how I've been owning my sister in a way, like she's very stressed in her life at the moment. And I feel like I should tell her how to do it so she's not stressed.
Yeah, but you see, you say owning your sister, and I think there's a misinterpretation there in the word owning. You can own somebody and have it be that you're looking out for them and taking care of them.
I own Shya.
That's right.
Make no mistake.
Make no mistake about it. And the way it was being talked about earlier was that you hold them as your property and they should behave the way you want them to behave rather than being the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking that you have some proprietary power or they owe you something in some way. You know better than they do about their own life. That's a different kind of owning than being willing to support a person in being who they are rather than who you would prefer them to be.
Mm-hmm. And that's true. And still, I feel like I still do the wanting to be right, that she should do it differently so she's happy.
Yes, you do. And you see, that's why she does what she does in resistance to your pressure on her to be a certain way.
Yeah.
She's pushing her independence, even at the cost of her own well-being.
Last night we did because we're recording this ahead, we had a Monday evening. And our friend Tracy was on, and she had her son Callan with her. And often when she has been in St. John, Newfoundland, her parents step in and take care of her son while
he's about almost 3 years
he's
old.
almost 3. They were in Brooklyn because in order to keep her green card, she has to return to the United States a certain amount of time. And so he was with there, and of course she muted so that his chatter, because he's really verbal now, and he'd be like, look, there's Sandy, like he was recognizing people. It was very fun. But it was interesting because he had a new toy. It was a little plastic Tyrannosaurus Rex. So he wasn't happy playing with it. He kept putting it in front of the computer screen and camera so we couldn't see Tracy, and Tracy couldn't see the people on the screen because she had a smaller screen. And she kept, gently moving it aside. And he's between 2 and 3, and he recognizes that if he wants attention, he needs to do something that is resistible.
Mhm.
And most people don't grow out of that. So you having an opinion about what she should do and conning yourself into thinking you have the opinion because you want her to be happy is really not true. You have the opinion, and that opinion helps her keep that in place.
See,
Yeah.
resisting your opinion keeps her stuck being the way you'd prefer her not to be.
And then you get to be the better one.
Mhm.
You know, recently I was speaking with someone who was wrestling with alcoholism.
Mhm.
And that person has a lot of well-meaning friends who coach her how to find a coach, maybe AA, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that, get rid of all the alcohol in your house, all the different things. And I was speaking to her recently, and she was bringing up her alcoholism. And I was very careful not to have an opinion, not to put something forth, even if she was speaking in a way that
seemed to invite it.
It was like fishing. I'm like a fish that's been hooked many, many times, because I realized that when that individual is clear, they want to stop drinking, should they want to. They have all sorts of support system and they'll make the leap. But if they don't want, they won't. And if I got hooked into wishing for her, she would then have another thing to resist, and it would give her another reason
to drink.
That is so cool. It's not that my sister drinks, but it's like I perfect. It's, yeah, it feels so right.
You know, when I was a kid, my sister and I were, my middle sister, Mary, and I were playing around with smoking. And I think I was in grade school and she was, you know, a couple of years ahead, and we thought we were all sophisticated. My dad came home and we could hear him coming up the stairs. And so we threw the cigarette out, we opened the door and threw it out on the roof because there was a little walkway on the roof. So there it is sitting on the roof and the smoke curling up. And he comes up, and it's not as if he couldn't smell it in the room. And then, of course, see it sitting there burning on the deck. And I decided that I should take all the heat for it because I didn't want her to get in trouble. So I'm like, it was me, it was all me. I'm crying, and I put my arms around his waist, you know, or my head like on his belly. I was pretty small. And he just stood there and he looked at me. He didn't even really look at me. He just unwrapped my arms and he said, "Your body, your choice," and walked downstairs. And I never smoked again. I was devastated. I wanted him to care so badly. It can't have been a mistake that we were smoking when he was home. I mean, it was like, it was a request.
Mhm.
And it was a very interesting thing. And he was a smoker, so he didn't feel like he could tell us to not do something that he was doing. It was a very interesting time. He refused to resist what I was doing, and I had to be responsible for myself. And it was a highly painful lesson in responsibility, mainly because I didn't want to own it. But I'm really grateful for that move.
I've heard you talk about the story before, but in this context right now, it's like new and very, very appropriate and very fitting for the situation, because it's great. Well, now that we have that subject handled, no, I'm concerned because I also had the option to talk about, I'm going to be a grandmother soon, just a matter of weeks or even days. I mean, the window is open now where the baby of my eldest daughter could be born. So I'm excited about it, but I have like, I don't have any worries or anything. I keep thinking I should be more there, or, you know, I have these things that, how am I supposed to be as a grandmother? You know, what's expected of me? And I'm like, yeah, I feel like, pardon you.
I said, isn't that wonderful? Most people slide into the pressure of being a girlfriend in your case, being a wife in your case, being a mother, being a grandparent, being a parent, being a homeowner, being a college graduate. We have been enculturated to expect what it means and what we should do with certain circumstances. And I think it's really wonderful that you see there's a pressure to be a certain way. So rather than fold to the pressure and think it's you.
I didn't understand that.
You might want to look and see what your truth is rather than what the social dictate says.
Well, yeah. Instead of Googling, what does a good grandmother do?
Exactly. Be yourself, you know, see what's true for you.
Yeah.
What does a good grandmother do?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it's different from culture to culture. I
Yeah.
know we worked in Bali, Indonesia. Part of that culture, they told us, it may not be true anymore, was not to let the infant touch the ground for the first 6 months. So part of being a good grandmother was to be there for the handoff so that the child was never put down. So, you know, you want to do that?
No, not at all. Definitely not. What I like about being a grandmother is that I can cuddle the baby and give it back when I'm done.
Well, that's what you like as a grandmother, conceptually.
Right now,
Because
not
you're not one
being
yet,
a grandmother.
but you've heard that. I bet you could even Google that. And that would be the answer from a lot of people about what they enjoy about being a grandparent.
My grandmother actually said that. That's
Yeah.
So that's part of your heritage, your download. Yeah.
super. It's like hanging out with you guys has made my life so rich.
Well, I really can't be responsible for that.
That'd be like saying, hanging out with you guys has made me so miserable. It's the same thing. You're
Same
blaming
thing.
us for
Rather-
what you're doing for yourself.
Rather than seeing that you've used us to discover the greatness in you.
And thank you for using us so well.
Yes.
I've been great in picking people to hang out with. How's that? Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. The seminars that you guys do via Zoom, and you know, when they happen in person again, I'm sure they will be just as powerful as they've been in the past. But it's so personal and close, and I don't know. My life just gets good out of
I
it.
filled in with it was so good to have your life rather than be run by your emotions and upsets determined by circumstance.
Yes.
You know, we're recording this in advance, and we were chatting before turning on the recording and starting the show. And you were talking to us about how happy you are that you registered for Costa Rica before COVID, and that you've rolled over your money so that you're ready to go to Costa Rica as soon as
We
it
have a
opens.
venue.
Who knows? You know, maybe by the time this airs, we will have the venue secured and everything will be in place. It's really wonderful to see how much you've invested in you and how happy you are about your life choices. And if anything, I think that's the best heritage that you can be passing on to your daughter and your granddaughter. Liking yourself is a pretty great place to come from.
Liking yourself and liking your life and not complaining as to how it's showing up but living it.
Mm.
Mm.
Thanks for being with us.
Yes,
today.
thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure.
If you want to be a guest or submit a listener spotlight, which is what happens in the middle of the show where people are talking about their experience of transformation, or if you'd even like to suggest a topic for recording, just go to transformationmadeeasy.com/being here and find out how. Next week's episode.
Is bragging can be cool.
It can be. That's it. Go ahead, brag. We'll be back next week.
So come on back and don't miss being here.